Joe Biden literally checked his watch after every one of those caskets came off that plane. We're taking out Christianity from the military, which is really, really bad. We're far more concerned about waging a woke culture war in the armed services than they were about responding to these radicals overseas that want to kill us. And when you're talking about adding women to the draft, that's not a sign of strength. That's a sign of desperation. Who wants to go fight and die for a country that's evil? No one.
Our founding fathers here in this country brought about the idea that you and I have within ourselves the God-given right and the ability to determine our own destiny. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-thought lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
Back when Obama was in office, we all remember the famous picture of Hillary Clinton and Obama's cabinet in the control room, in the command room, after the Benghazi attack, after leaving 13 soldiers to die in Benghazi. We all thought that was awful. That was a tragedy. That was one of the worst things that happened to our country since 9/11. But just 3 years ago, even more soldiers died in what's called Abbey-gate. So here to talk about that and his new documentary about Abbey-gate is President of American Principles Project, Terry Schilling. And Terry, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Christian.
I appreciate you coming on. We were just talking off camera that my editor for the podcast is actually the same guy who edited this documentary that just came out the other day. So a good little connection there. But before we get into the meat of the actual documentary, what you guys are doing at APP, I want to talk about how you uploaded it. You didn't put this in online on a website. You didn't just upload it or try to get it in theaters. You uploaded it straight to X on Twitter. Do you think this is like a transitioning in the industry, that more things are going to be going straight onto Twitter instead of the traditional media routes? What was your decision process behind that?
Well, listen, and thanks so much for having me, Christian. X is an open platform. You're not going to have your videos pulled down for violating your freedom of speech or for being too offensive. It's an open, free speech platform, and I think this is the new trend. I think that the American mainstream media, the legacy media, they have way too much control. They really, leftists control a lot of the means of communication and dissemination of information in this country, and X is counter to that. And so I think that X is a great platform for organizations and individuals like you and I to post our content on there, because it's not going to get taken down for being offensive. If it's legal, it's going to remain up, and it's a great way to disseminate and share information, not just to our own people, but to people that disagree with us. It can help open up conversations and open up hearts and minds, and that's ultimately why we wanted to upload it to X. It's the most open and freest platform online today.
I think that was a great choice. I think it paid off for you guys. When I checked it out the night it was released, I think it was been out for 2 or 3 hours. It already had 12 million views. And I'm looking at it now, it says 22.2 million views in just about a week. So I think that's incredible. And even then on Twitter, I think one of the best parts about it is they reached the young people. When Elon and Trump did that space a few weeks ago, the vast majority of them were under 30, under 35. And when I go on Fox or Newsmax, I'm sure when you go on too, we're all just talking to older people. We're talking to people older than us. I may go on as Gen Z representative. I'm not talking to young people. No young person is watching cable TV anymore. So I think it's great that we're getting the message out to the youth and actually educating them about this, as our public schools are. So somebody has to. So going back to Abbey-gate here, I remember when this all went down, I was, I think, a junior in high school. I was 16. I remember it was like August, September there, right about this time 3 years ago. And I was in the middle of soccer season, just getting started there. I just bought a new pair of cleats. And when it happened, I took it upon myself. I wanted to write all 13 names of the soldiers who had fallen on my cleats, because I live close to Dover Air Force Base, where all of the fallen soldiers come back from the Middle East. And then I saw Joe basically fall asleep with his sunglasses on, and they want ice cream when he was there visiting the bodies with the families. And I thought that was awful. So I wanted to do that. It almost feels like, as just a 16-year-old there, that was more than Joe Biden had even done as president. What do you think about Joe Biden's response to Abigate?
Well, I think that Joe Biden's response to all of our men and women in uniform that lost their lives at Abigate under his command has been so callous and heartless. It's been disgusting. And then you saw the they Biden and Kamala, they both ignored the request of Gold Star families to join them on the anniversary of Abigate at Arlington National Cemetery. And when President Trump managed to be the only person to show up, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden attacked these Gold Star families. I mean, it's kind of idiotic. It's kind of evil, right? Like, you have to be so callous and politically brazen in order to attack Gold Star families. Like, you don't mess with grandmas and you don't mess with Gold Star families. Like, they need our full support. And but I go back to the original video of the bodies coming off of the plane draped in the American flag. Joe Biden literally checked his watch after every one of those caskets came off that plane. Where's he got to go? Like, what's more important than welcoming those guys back home after they served their country proudly and paid ultimately the ultimate price? It's absolutely terrible. These people are so politically calculated. They really don't care about us. They don't care about these men and women that lost their lives or their families. They're willing to make political cannon fodder out of all of us.
And the Gold Star families have been the epitome of what we should honor in America. And if the current administration isn't even honoring those people, what about the people who are shot in Chicago or in Wilmington or in one of these other major cities? They don't care about the people who served our country, let alone the common everyday person. So walk us through a couple of the interviews that you did with the family members, the Gold Star family members, like Nicole G's family, the other staff sergeant's family. Walk us through some of those and what they were feeling afterwards.
Well, part of what was so outstanding with this documentary, we sat down with these people to make short form videos, just quick 30, 40, 50, 60-second videos of them telling their stories in a concise manner. But the stories are so gut wrenching. Like, they literally hit you right in the chest. I've seen this documentary and I've seen these clips probably a dozen or so times. It still catches me off guard with just how emotional and how much it tugs on your heartstrings. But these people, every single one of their stories is unique in that their children were unique. But in terms of how their children were treated in the military during and then even after what happened in Afghanistan is absolutely horrific. And this is not an aberration, right? This is not a one-off. Our veterans in our country they get treated like trash, right? They are not respected. There's so many homeless veterans. There's so many veterans that suffer from serious mental illnesses and mental conditions. PTSD, suicidality is sky high. Drug use is sky high amongst our men and women in uniform. And it's all because of these types of conflicts where they're mismanaged, where they aren't given what they need when they go home. But also, we're getting religion out of the military, right? We're taking out Christianity from the military, which is really, really bad. Every study that has come out shows that Christianity in the military, religion in general in the military, helps alleviate a lot of these mental illnesses that are going along, because belief in a higher power and belief that you have a creator that designed you and created you that can help you get through things is very, very important when it comes to dealing with these issues, rather than believing that you're all alone. But on top of the Gold Star families, it was very interesting to me to see some of the members of Congress who are a little bit removed from this. They've been doing the investigation. Matt Gaetz, Mark Meadows, they teared up. They got emotional hearing the stories of these families, right? And these are all very powerful. The Gold Star families are the star of this show. And that's the whole point of this, is to make sure that the American people hear these stories, not from me, not from Harlan Hill, not from Logan Circle Group or American Principles Project, but they hear these Gold Star families talk about this in their own words, from their own perspective, just about how badly managed our military has become.
and Joe Biden has rarely, if ever, even said their names. And you talked about the lack of religion and Christianity in the military. Obviously, we're seeing that in a culture as a whole. Do you think that's especially more restricted and less accepted within the military? Or is that just another branch off of what we're seeing in culture today?
Well, so in the past, they would have chaplains all over the place in the military. At every branch, religion was actively encouraged to be practiced and to lean upon. But ever since Barack Obama was elected in 2008, the military has been discouraging religious practice, and they've been cutting back on the chaplains, the amount of chaplains they used to provide Bibles ready and available for anyone that was looking for them. They don't do any of that now. So now it's not like it's restricted; it's just no longer encouraged. And these guys, they're getting blown up, they're getting shot at, they're seeing their friends and their family members getting shot and blown up. They need someone to guide them, right? You're not always looking for Jesus. Sometimes, I think you and I probably have had similar situations where a friend of ours has pulled us back into the faith, right, from when we're straggling and straying away. And that is what we need in our military. Especially, you need a all hands on deck to make sure these guys do not stray away from the Lord. It's so difficult. Life is stressful enough just not being in the military, not seeing your family and friends get blown up and shot at. And you need that extra push and that extra encouragement to stay close to the Lord in the military. So the idea that the military has just gone neutral in terms of whether or not religion is beneficial or not in society or in the military, it's absolutely criminal. Religion, it doesn't matter if you're Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, or whatever. You just have to practice a religion because you have to believe in something bigger than yourself in the military. And so I'm not saying that the military should go, all 100% Christian. That's my religion, but they need to encourage religious practice. It should be open to everyone. It should be actively encouraged there.
Yeah, we've got to have that foundation back in society today. And even atheists like Richard Dawkins, Elon Musk are coming out and saying, we're better off with the Christian society. That's the backbone. That's what enables us to be a capitalistic society and to thrive on a daily basis. But shifting back to what happened on that day 3 years ago, was it intentional by the Biden administration to let these soldiers just be left there? What's going on in that command room, in that decision-making process of the administration? Because 13 people lost their life there, and there's no accountability for it.
Well, we don't think, the central thesis and argument in this documentary is that instead of focusing on the real radicals abroad, our Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration, the president, vice president, were far more concerned about waging a woke culture war on our men and women in the armed services than they were about responding to these radicals overseas that want to kill us. And so it's not that it was deliberate; it was careless. And there were other things that were a bigger priority, like putting drag queens in the military, kicking men and women out for not getting the COVID vaccine, getting religion out of the military, encouraging degenerate lifestyles, and instead of focusing on unity and uniformity amongst our troops, they focus instead on these garbage diversity and inclusion and equity programs. We just need a healthy fighting force. We want people that are dedicated to America, that love this country. We don't care what color they are, or what their sexual orientation is, or what their gender is. We just want people that want to save this country, serve it proudly, and ultimately, if called upon, be willing to die for themselves and for the others that they're surrounding themselves with. Joe Biden, his administration, and Kamala Harris was part of this all the way. They were more focused on diversity, inclusion, and equity than they were on building the most serious and deadly fighting force in the world. We need to get back to basics. We need to get rid of this administration. They're absolutely deadly. We need to stop this woke culture war that's being waged on our military men and women.
And going back to the basics is the same exact thing I've been saying for the past year or whatever it's been, is we've lost the foundation of our society, and now we're trying to address all these other external issues without a base. And it's just a pyramid collapsing on itself at this rate. Have you talked to older service members, say, who served in, say, like the Korean War, or in the 90s, early 2000s, before all of this transgender stuff and the wokeness enter the military, what are the differences they're seeing now between, say, younger family members that are in the military now versus what they served like then?
The biggest difference that I've noticed from talking to these people, and I've done more than just the anecdotal talking to family and friends that I know from Vietnam and the Korean War. We've actually surveyed this. We've done several polls talking to formerly enlisted members of the armed services. The biggest thing that stood out is that 25% of them in our most recent survey in 2023 said that they would not recommend that their family or friends join the military. Right. And the thing you have to keep in mind, Christian, is that the military is very much word of mouth and ancestral. Right. Most people, their dad served. If you're in the military today, it's odds are your dad served, his dad served. You have a family history of serving the military. It's very rare that someone would join the military without some family history of it on either side of the family. And we now have about 25% of these previous generations of the military saying that they would not recommend that their children or grandchildren join the military. That's a real condemnation. I think it's on several things. I think that they think the military is distracted with this DEI stuff. I also think that they're worried about the safety of their kids. I think that they feel like they were taken advantage of and that they were put into situations where they didn't get the support that they needed, and they don't want their children to put in there. If we don't start encouraging people to serve our country and stop going down this whole rabbit hole of telling people that America is evil and racist and built on white supremacy and oppression, we're not going to have anyone that's willing to defend this country. And that means that we're not going to have a country, because there's lots of people in this world that would love to have the abundant resources that we have here. We've got a lot of oil, got a lot of natural resources, and we have really hardworking people. And if we aren't inspiring the next generation to stand up and serve their country and get back to basics here, Christian, we're going to lose it all to Russia or China or any of these other corporations that really want to control us and turn us into serfs.
And as a younger person, I think those servants are right on point. Talking to other younger people my age, I think I can count on one hand the number of people who I know my age who want to go into the military or in the military now. I think that's very sad to be seeing. I think I saw a recent statistic a few weeks ago that said among my generation, Gen Z, I think it's 1 or 2%, if not less, are in the military or joining the military as they're getting older. And I know Pete Hegseth just wrote a new book as a letter to his sons of why they should go into the military. But once again, that supports your point, saying it's ancestral. And one of the people I know who would like to join the Marines is actually from Guatemala. He came here at a young age, and now he wants to serve the country because he's seen what freedom is not like. And now he's seen what freedom is like and wants to preserve that. So what do you think is the best strategy to get young people to become patriotic again? That's what serving our country is all about. Whether it's in the military, it's going into politics, it's being patriotic in business, it's raising a family. That's all serving your country, because that's the preservation of what freedom is. So what would your message be to younger people to be patriotic?
Learn your history, right? First and foremost, learn your history. Know about the men and women that came before us, that served and sacrificed, and that helped actually build this country. Yes, we've got our scars. There's no hiding that. We've had slavery. We were attacking people and not giving them civil rights. We've had a long history and a lot of oppression that's happened to this country. But overall, we have always marched towards justice. We have always marched towards fixing these problems, right? And you can't make the perfect the enemy of the good. And America, unfortunately for her enemies, has always been good, right? We've had our mistakes. We have our scars. We had a lot of bad things happen in this country, but we almost always make the right call at the end of the day. We almost always solve these injustices that are happening. And even if we don't catch them all, we're going to keep making progress towards them. So first and foremost, learn about the Founding Fathers. Actually read their words. Our Founding Fathers wrote a lot of documents. Start with the Federalist Papers. It's very easy to understand. They wrote it for the common man so that they could understand what was being debated and discussed at the constitutional conventions. But also learn about the battles. Learn about the wars that we've been involved in. Read up on your history. Learn about the laws that we passed in the country. Just read about American history. founding fathers, the great presidents that we've had in this country, they've it's incredible and it's fascinating. It's good versus evil constantly, and that good versus evil battle happens internally in the United States, and we almost always beat the bad guys. And we even if we don't beat them entirely, they come back and then we beat them again. Read about your American history, but also, Christian, start a family, get a stake in the future. Right when you have kids and when you have a wife, it's the first time in your life where you have to take care of other people. You have to focus on other people besides yourselves. Get married, have babies, and protect those kids. Teach them history. Pass this on. Pass on, we pass on our faith. We pass on, we try and pass on patriotism to the next generation, but we don't do a good enough job. And that was Ronald Reagan's biggest regret in his farewell address, was that he felt like he didn't do enough to instill patriotism and a greater understanding of what America's challenges had been and how she'd overcome them. And so we got to talk about these challenges, how we've overcome it. And we ended slavery, like that's a big deal. And we fought a very bloody civil war. It sucks that it had to happen, but it's beautiful that our country was willing to do that in order to secure the rights of all Americans and make sure that we could all live free in this country. Hasn't been perfect, but it's getting more perfect. I'll tell you that.
I think those are some wise words right there. That's what I write about in my book, America, Don't Give Up. Writing it to my generation, I inform them about our most essential liberty, the linchpin of all of our liberties, which is freedom of speech. Understanding that. And I think when I'm talking to other young people, whether they're young conservatives or not, and we talk about what if we get drafted? What if Kamala is reelected and we get into a third world war? We're going to fight in Ukraine or Palestine or Israel, whatever it is. We're going to fight the world war. And the thing that keep coming back and telling me is, I don't want to go, not just because I'm scared or I don't know how to use a rifle. It's that I don't believe in the administration I would be serving. I think the morale is down completely. And I don't think, what do you think about the morale before and after Abbygate? How has that shifted and been a detriment to the military across the board, even in the Air Force, in the Marines, all branches of the military?
Well, there's been a lot of studies that have come out and a lot of stats coming out from military recruitment that shows that our military readiness is the worst it's ever been. Like the worst it's ever been. Our recruitment standards are falling through the floor. We're not hitting the bare minimums that we need to hit. That's why, Congress has been debating whether or not to add women to the draft. Right? That's a sign of desperation. Right? When you're talking about adding women to the draft, that's not a sign of strength. That's a sign of desperation that you're not hitting your recruitment numbers and that our military and our country is vulnerable. People have lost faith in America's generals. These guys have more, awards and tags and everything and badges on their shoulders. They have more than Eisenhower had, right? But they haven't won any major conflicts. They have not inspired this next generation. Christian, I think the biggest problem with our military was two things. We have generals at the top that are woke, that are, attacking you think about the people that actually want to join the military and serve it. They're true blue Americans, right? They wave the American flag. I bet a lot of them fly the Confederate flag in their backyards. A lot of them come from the South. And these are the people that our military is attacking, right? They're trying to go for this woke, new generation that's out there. I don't think it really exists. And that's why they're falling short. Rather than just getting people that want to serve their country, that love their country, that are Christians, they would rather go and try and convince people to join the military that have no interest in serving their country. They'd rather try and convince people to join the military that hate this country. I think that America was founded on racism and white supremacy. These are the generals now. General Milley is the most idiotic moron ever, and he's woke as hell. These are the people that are in charge of our military. We need a clean house of the leadership. And if we don't do that soon, we're not going to be recruiting them. So we got woke generals at the top. That's the major problem. But the other major problem that we have is we're telling an entire generation of Americans that their nation is evil, that it was founded on oppressing other people. It's not true. And that's not going to, who wants to go fight and die for a country that's evil? No one. And that means we're going to lose our country to whoever comes next. Whoever attacks the United States, under these conditions, they're going to have a much easier time than previous generations.
Yeah, and that's a massive concern. And everyone says that I've been teaching the next generation that America is racist and evil. I've been teaching them all of these negative things about America. I think that's an understated point. Everyone says it all the time, but we're just now barely beginning to see the dead fruit that's coming from that. And we know that if Kamala's elected, there's going to be nothing good that comes out of that. Our military is only going to be weakened. And like you said, we're going to be at the weakest point in the last 50 years for an enemy to attack. And that should be concerning all Americans, whether they're old, young, have a family, or you don't. But you interviewed Trump in this documentary at Mar-a-Lago. I think it was back in July when you recorded it. When you did that, did you talk to him about what he would do to fix the military in another 4 years?
Yeah, we did. That was the main questions that we were asking. We were asking about his plans going forward when he was in the White House, and what he was planning to do, and how that plan differed from what Biden ended up doing. And it was very different. Trump told us point blank that under those conditions, he would have not pulled out just to hit a 20-year deadline, right? He would have waited until everyone was ready. Definitely would have tipped all of those locals off like that. But he was very clear when we sat down with him that he was going to clean up the military, and he was also clear to point out that it's not the men and women that are joining that are woke; it's the military leadership that needs to get cleaned up, and that was going to be his main priority, was getting rid of all of these woke generals from the military. They have to go. And when you're president, you're commander in chief. You have that authority to get rid of these corrupt generals that really don't believe in America, right? General Milley tipped off the Chinese in between the transfer of power in 2020. He tipped off the Chinese and said, "We'll let you know if Trump starts to go crazy and take action against you." That is called treason, right? He was the duly elected president, and we have military generals still serving that are undercutting that and actually committing treason. We need to get rid of these people, and Trump was very clear in the documentary that we sat down for that he was going to clean up the leadership, and I think that that's exactly right. That's the number one priority, is to get rid of all of these anti-American woke generals. They have no business being in our military.
Yeah, and hopefully we do see that restoration of American pride, morale, joining the military another 4 years. Because if not, I'm not sure you won't be attacked by the Russia or the China, possibly not in the next 4 years, but it'll definitely be soon after that, if not now. What would your advice be to Trump on day one? He's taken the generals out. He's replaced them with good ones. What's your message to the generals to shore it up and to get the wokeness out of the military?
It's easy. Recruit people that love this country. Recruit people that believe in the American dream, believe in the American experiment. Go after them young. And look, Christian, you're part of this Gen Z, right? I'm a millennial. I'm on the later stage of millennials. I'm in between Gen X and the millennials. You're there, man, and you're seeing this firsthand. There is a new age coming with this next generation. Some of the best, most brightest kids, Americans that I've met, are part of your generation. Go after those kids and do whatever it takes to get them in. We need more men and women in uniform that believe in this country, that support this country. Don't go for diversity, equity, inclusion. That stuff shouldn't be a consideration. We need uniformity in the military, right? They shave your head first day when you go to basic training to make you all as similar as possible. We don't need diversity in the military. We just need people that will save and serve this country. We don't care what color your skin is. We don't care what gender you are. We don't care what your sexual orientation is. We just want people that love America and are willing to put their lives on the line overseas and here to do the best thing for our families and to save our country. We needed people that are willing to see the greater good, the greater goal. Stop pushing these woke, they have drag queens on naval bases now. Get rid of all that stuff. That's not attractive to men and women that love this country, that want to serve. These are all distractions. Get back to basics. Recruit the people. Don't care about the color of your skin. Go back to civil rights. Focus on what Martin Luther King Jr. We don't care about the color of your skin. We care about the content of your character. That's what should be leading the military, and that should be first and foremost. If you love America, if you want to serve your country, you believe in the American experiment, then that's who we should be recruiting, because those are the people that that understand the importance of serving your country.
I think the key in doing that comes from other generations. Let me explain why. Whenever you're in leadership and you're getting to the end of your term or you're going to retire, you need to pass the torch. You need to choose someone to be your successor. And with the torch of freedom, the same is true. We have to pass the torch of freedom from one generation to the next. And one thing I think I'm seeing as a young person is that it looks like older generations are just trying to hold on to that torch of freedom because they don't think the younger generation is ready for it. They see what the media portrays us as, and almost they've given up on the younger generations like Gen Z and even millennials to a sense. And I think we've got to get back to simply having the conversations, multi-generational conversations, so that they can mentor us, they can invest into us, so that we can invest into not only our future, but their future as well. I think that's one of the big things we're lacking is not the passing of the torch of freedom. Would you agree?
Absolutely agree, Christian. We got so many members of Congress and senators that are in their 70s and 80s. They need to pass the torch on to the next generation, and they need to put some trust in the American experiment, right? Especially, you got these guys that are locked into solid Republican states and solid Republican districts, and they're still serving in their 70s and 80s. It's time to step aside, right? There is a new generation, but also groom kids to serve, right? Talk to them, find your successors, right? Look at these next generation and talk to these kids. I've had great mentors, incredible mentors that took me by the shoulder and showed me what the American experiment was all about. I didn't, it wasn't like I was interested in America. I was interested in our founding fathers. I read a lot, but that was nothing compared to the guidance and mentorship that I received from incredibly impactful people. Frank Cannon, Jeff Bell, my father, Bobby Schilling is a former member of Congress, Sam Brownback, Chris Smith from New Jersey. These guys all instilled a love for America and a deep understanding for what's at stake here and how unique America is compared to the rest of the world. We're about to lose all of our freedoms. And I think a lot of it is because these guys are holding on to power and they're unwilling to hand it off to the next generation.
And that mentorship aspect is exactly what we need and exactly what we're missing today. I know we've got to wrap up here in a minute, but tell us what you're doing at APP with your American Principles Project organization, what you're fighting for.
Well, American Principles Project is the NRA for family values. We call ourselves Big Family, where we want to make the family the most powerful special interest group in America. And everyone's got a special interest group that punishes their political enemies and rewards their allies. Big pharma, big oil, big tobacco. We're Big Family. So if someone's coming to indoctrinate children into hating their country or confusing them about their gender, or they're waging this woke culture war against our kids or taking away parental rights, we want to unelect those guys. And this year, we're going to be spending around $18 million to help elect pro-family champions. Mostly, we're putting our money behind President Trump and taking back the U.S. Senate. But our campaign ads are up and running right now. We have several ads running right now around this woke military issue with these Gold Star families, talking about what Biden and Harris have done to our military. But we've also got Riley Gaines, who has cut ads for us, a new woman that was on the swim team, the Penn swim team with Leah Thomas. Her name's Paula Scanlon. Her story's powerful. We have detransitioners who were kids that they went through these gender transitions and then came to regret it. Them telling their stories about how oppressive Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been. So we're hitting the ground. We're going after persuadable voters. And it's work I'm very, very proud of. And you guys can all check us out at AmericanPrinciplesProject.org.
And I hear Tucker says you guys actually have principles in the organization. After talking to, I believe him. I don't just take his word for it.
Sure.
But where can we find this documentary that you just released the other day?
So you can go to our X account. It's AP Project 1776. I'm sorry, it's actually just AP Project. So AP Project on Twitter. It's right there at the top. Otherwise, you can go to culturewardoc.com and you can get all the links there.
That sounds great. Terry, I appreciate you joining us, talking to us about this woke war machine that's going on.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.